Solo left, book F left, 19 zap. You got me, right? You know what that play call means? All right, cool. Let me go on to something more advanced. Strong left, hug X left, toss 19 Zoro dart. And then if that made sense to you, let's try I right, flex F right, toss 18 support can, toss 19 Wanda. Okay, I know all of that is super scary, but I think by the end of this, it'll be a little bit less intimidating. Stick with me. It's a Locked On Vikings podcast.
You like that on 3, 1, 2, 3, you like it!
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I am your host, Luke Braun. Thank you so much for listening, and let's find some joy today. A special thank you to my hashtag everydayers. Those of you who do listen to this show every single day, I appreciate you all so much. You can find this show wherever you find your favorite podcasts, whether it is an app like SiriusXM, we're partnered with them, very exciting, or YouTube, or Amazon Fire, or Roku. You can just download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app and find Locked On Vikings on there. Shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's go into today's show, which is going to be about some pretty deep X's and O's stuff. And the goal for this show for me is this isn't for coaches, for anybody who's closer to football than I am, is going to know this stuff or at least have their own words for this stuff, but be pretty innately familiar with it. This is for fans like you and me. And for us to be able to sit, watch a Vikings game and go, oh my God, that was Wanda. And, that was 18 support. And if you can figure out, okay, that was 18 support and you can like flex that to your uncles, you're going to look really cool. So that is the goal here. All right. A lot of this information comes from a great article by Sean Syed, Syed Schemes, at Syed Schemes. You should follow him on Twitter. He's a phenomenal follow for if you want to really expand your understanding of the sport and sort of make that jump from person who maybe played Madden and knows about as much as that can teach you to somebody who actually understands the intricacies that real coaches think about every day. That's kind of going to be the base of knowledge that I'm assuming here is the Madden base of knowledge. So you kind of know what. I mean, you know the basics of what a tight end is, right? And what strong side and weak side mean. And that's, tight end is on the strong side and the weak side is the other side. Stuff like that, you're going to kind of have that prerequisite knowledge. So if you have that amount, I think you'll be able to follow along here. So look, those play calls were completely insane, right? That, like, how do you memorize any of that stuff? And it's really hard. That's part of what makes quarterback hard. What I will say is let's look at the second one. Strong left, hug, X left. Toss, 19, Zoro dart. The first half of that, strong left, hug, X left, is all formation. So strong left, strong side to the left side. Hug X, that's tells the X to line up in a condensed formation. And hug X left, that means the X is on the left, condensed formation. That's all that is. And that formation data is a lot more memorization than it is like conceptual and like really like learning. So let's set that aside for now. Maybe that can be a thing for another day, but let's set that aside for now and just talk about toss 19 Zoro dart. That's going to be the harder part here. So let's get into that. So toss is a toss run, right? 18-19, you will see in like every run play call in this sort of modern playbook. Now, this is a playbook from the 2018 49ers. So forgive me that's 5 years old now. Here's the deal. I would not be surprised to learn that Kyle Shanahan still uses this terminology. This is all very basic terminology. This is not something that an opposing team can actually really get anything from knowing. And this has also been available and out there forever. So if you want to have the playbooks that I am using for this show and that Sean used for his article, I'm happy to send it to you. It's a Google Drive that has been posted on Twitter a million times. It's pretty much out there by now. But for example, the idea of Wanda, support, 18-19, all of these words, a defense can't really use that because the offense will use different code names for it all. They'll name things after colors. They'll name things after pop stars. They'll do something different, and they'll do something different every single week. So if you do learn their signals for one week, doesn't really help you the next. So none of this is a state secret that's going to get anybody in trouble or disadvantage or advantage anybody by being out there. The only reason I say that is people got really mad at me when I did this exact same thing last year. But these are the fairly universal terms. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the Vikings are using these terms, and I would be surprised to learn that they aren't using these concepts. I really do think that these are the concepts that they're using. Maybe they're calling it something different. Doesn't matter to us, right? You don't have to worry too much about the names, but we can at least get a common terminology here so we can understand the concepts, right? So this would be something of a baseline there. And the base call is 18 or 19. So 18 and 19 are the outside zone calls. If you hear 18, 19, you know it is outside zone. And 18 is outside zone to the right, 19 is outside zone to the left. That's all that those numbers mean. So if you are an offensive lineman and you hear 18 or 19, then you know immediately the play call, kind of everything you have to know. Because outside zone blocking principles are a sort of a read instruction that all offensive linemen get. And really, no matter what else is going on in the play, most of that is talking to skill players. But if you hear, 18 1 to 19 support, whatever, you're using outside zone principles. So outside zone principles, I've talked about this on the show before, gap down backer, or gap on double, or gap on down. All of those are the sort of the same level of instruction, just sort of taught in a different way. I've heard them all. I'll use gap down backer for now. So that is essentially a read progression for offensive linemen on who they're supposed to block. So the first instruction is gap. In an outside zone, it's very easy. Your gap is the one to the play side of you, to the side the run is going. So if it's 18, run to the right, then my gap is the gap to my right. If it's 19, run to the left. My gap is the gap to the left. If there's anybody in that, I am responsible for winning on their outside shoulder. On their play side shoulder. So I'm responsible for getting around them and reaching them. Maybe I'll have help on a double. Maybe that's a really hard block. Kind of depends. And you can kind of already see how defenses might attack that, right? And say, hey, let's make all those blocks really hard by making everybody have to single block their reach blocks. If you don't have anybody in your gap, your next responsibility is down, or some places will teach it gap and then on. If there's somebody head up on you, treat that like that's your gap, and you got that guy, right? Or you might have heard covered, uncovered. This is to say you're covered by that guy, or if you have somebody in your gap, you're covered by that guy. And if you're uncovered, then you go down. So a down block is to the other side. If the run's to the left, that's to my right. It's the gap opposite the one that I have. As a weird aside, gap schemes like power, counter, trap, that kind of stuff will have a puller and everybody else blocking down. So your initial responsibility, as long as you're not a puller, is actually to block down. And then if there's nobody down, you go to a backer. So you kind of skip the gap part a little bit. Or if there's nobody there, maybe you double. So you kind of reverse this. And that can be an interesting thing. If you can run both, it makes it really hard because the way the line, all of the linemen step in zone is the way the run is going. The way all of the linemen step in gap is the opposite of the way the run is going. So if you can do both, it can be subversive. All a conversation for another day. I'm not talking about gap schemes today. We're just talking about outside zone, 18, 19. So hopefully you get that. 18, 19 equals outside zone. 19 outside zone left, 18 outside zone right. If you get that, and all you are is an offensive lineman, or all you're paying attention to is offensive lineman, congratulations. All the other words you can, as a fan at least, safely ignore. Actual NFL players probably should know what all that other stuff means, just for holistic knowledge and how much that can help and situational awareness and all that stuff. But for the most part, if you know 18, 19, you know what the O-line's doing. So that brings us to all of the other words: toss, support, force, weak, wando, wheezy, zap, Zorro, all that other crap. So I'm going to basically spend the rest of the show trying to get those to you and understand what they are and also what they're for. You can already kind of see the problems that come with this, right? If you're playing gap down backer, right? Let's say you are Garrett Bradbury and there's somebody in your gap, but there's not somebody. Let's say it's 18, it's a run to the right. So there's somebody in your gap, but there's not somebody in Ed Ingram's gap, right? It's a normal four down front. So there's a nose tackle to your right. You've got that guy. He's my guy. He's in my gap. There's nobody to Ed Ingram's gap. So he is going to block down, which means he's also blocking that guy. Hooray, we're in a double team. That makes my job easier. That makes Ed Ingram's job easier, right? So for defenses, they might put a guy in Ed Ingram's gap. So now not only does he have to win a one-on-one block, but now I, as Garrett Bradbury, have to win a one-on-one block. You just made those two guys' jobs harder, and that's not really good news for the Vikings. So how do you deal with that? That's kind of what all of these other words are for. Before I do that, let me talk to you about the sponsor of today's episode, which is LinkedIn Jobs. Look, it is hiring season, right? A whole bunch of people just got out of college, which means you might be in charge of hiring for your work or for maybe a company that you own. And that can be a really, really daunting task. There's so many resumes to sift through, and there's so many automated services that can maybe rank those resumes, but they don't really get you and what your company and what your business is for. That is what LinkedIn Jobs focuses on, and it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. And right now, you can post your job on LinkedIn Jobs for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. And it's super easy to go to LinkedIn Jobs and create a free job post. Very intuitive. Go do that and add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that, hey, we're hiring. They have all kinds of simple tools like screening questions and stuff that make it easy to focus with candidates with the right skills and the right set of traits for whatever your company is looking for. Your company is a unique thing. This is not a one size fits all. There's no cookies cutters here. LinkedIn is focused on helping you get what is right for you. That's why everybody likes it. So go ahead and try to start the back half of this year strong, and perhaps the right team member will do that. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Again, you can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. So there's no excuses for not doing this. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again to my hashtag everydayers, those of you who do listen to this show every single day. I also want to shout out patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. I have a post that went up kind of at the end of last week, right before I went on a quick vacation, about Caleb Evans and Andrew Booth, and kind of why Caleb Evans shot ahead of Andrew Booth on the depth chart, what Booth was doing wrong, and maybe what he can do to fix it. Interesting situation there, but we're focusing on the run game today. So there's let's focus on the third one, the really long one that I did in the intro to this, which was I right flex, F right. That's okay. All that's formation. Toss 18. Okay, so that's a toss run to the right. Toss 18. Support can toss 19 Wanda. I actually want to start with that last word, Wanda. Wanda is a weak side run, and it's actually the way the Vikings lived last year. So if you're running outside zone to the weak side, which is all Wanda means, a lot of times you'll do that you'll call that mid zone. And actually in the modern NFL, you'll see mid zone to the weak side a lot more than you'll see outside zone, if you see true outside zone ever at all. And essentially that just means the tackle is responsible for the edge rusher, either win his outside shoulder if he can. Say the edge rusher tries to crash inside you or something and gives it up for free. Okay, we'll take that. But otherwise, you're mostly going to kick him out, right? Block him, either directly drive block him, which means just push him and just block him, put him on the sled and put him as far as you can, or win to his inside shoulder and move him upfield, or kind of react to whatever he's doing. But it's a one-on-one. So if you're Christian Darrisaw, you might be going up against Nick Bosa, and you're going to have that one-on-one. That can be kind of scary. The Vikings lived in this kind of because they had Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. They could trust those guys, put them in a one-on-one, and have them at the point of attack of the play. That is the main thing. The running back's aiming point, tackles butt, and he probably will shoot up the B gap while everybody else does double teams. So you kind of have to have killer tackles to do it. You also get to then do a lot of uphill running. You have to run a little more north-south instead of having to go around everything and be this really east-west team. Fastest way to the end zone is north-south, right? That was sort of the thesis, but it didn't work for a couple of reasons. And unusually, those reasons were not the tackles couldn't handle what was on their plate, because those were pretty good players. Brian O'Neill got hurt. Christian Darrisaw got the concussion thing. So there were some times where that was the problem, but for the most part, I mean, Darrisaw was phenomenal. Brian O'Neill did well enough too. It was more that those runs, well, they don't have skill players over there because it's to the weak side. So definitionally, there's no tight end, right? Sometimes there was a fullback and they would run outside zone weak with a lead blocker. In this system, the word for that is weak. And then the fullback will block the weak side linebacker and essentially take him out so that other guys can focus on the double team. But essentially, you don't have any other skill players to help with double team. So if you want to really think this out, think the blocking math out a little bit. let's take a regular 4-3 defensive line. Let's not worry about the linebackers right now. That every double team is comboing up to one of the linebackers, right? So they're all reading, if the linebacker goes my way, I'll take him. If he goes your way, you'll take him. That's the way you kind of think about it with a double team. But let's just think about the defensive line for now. So if you have Christian Darrisaw on the edge rusher, right? That's your one-on-one, your key block, and we're just trusting him. Okay, that one-on-one is there. Those guys cancel each other out. You've got the backside edge rusher, which, I mean, this is outside zone. So you've got Dalvin Cook running away from him. He's going to outrun that guy. We don't have to block him at all. And very often that would be the case. You just wouldn't block him. Or maybe a tight end is going to just get a shoulder into him or something just to slow him down a little bit. But for the most part, you don't really expect that guy to chase down the entire play. It's kind of incredible when he does. You're a little more worried about it in the NFL when everyone's a freak, but in the high school and college levels, it's like, man, if that guy makes the play, he's the God's gift to football and whatever, we're beat. You got us. So if you think about the math there, we've used one of our offensive linemen to block an edge rusher. We've used none of our offensive linemen. We're just kind of hoping the structure of the play takes care of the other guy because he can't chase it down. That leaves us 4 offensive linemen on the 2 defensive tackles. All those guys get to be part of double teams. So when you have somebody who's maybe struggling, like a rookie guard at Ingram, or like Garrett Bradbury, who's struggled for sure, then you can ask less of that guy. He doesn't have to reach in one-on-one. He can be in a double team. He can be a little bit more his job can be a little bit more forgiving, right? So if you're this is how the Miami Dolphins really got the Vikings. They had 10 3-and-outs in that game. This is how the Dolphins did that. Or the Cardinals tried to do that, and for other reasons it didn't work out. And a lot of teams did this kind of thing to really stymie the Vikings offense, and especially their run game. If you can use, say, a 5 down front and change that math, let's take that same operation, but put a guy between Bradbury and Ingram. And like I mentioned before, now or a guy between Ingram and O'Neal, perhaps. Now, suddenly, Ingram has a guy in his gap. Crap, now I have to deal with him, and I can't help my buddy Bradbury, who now also has to deal with a nose tackle on his own. Now we got 2 one-on-ones where that used to be a double we feel pretty good about because it's a 2-on-1. Even if those players are not our best players, it's still 2 players on 1. Well, now those guys are 1-on-1, and they're like points of failure, and they're on the play side of the play. This could get bad. How do we deal with that? That question, how do we deal with that, is sort of the operative problem of all of this. So there's a couple of interesting weak side ways that you can deal with that. You can still run weak zone. And if you listen to all of my versions of this from last year, the Understanding the Kevin O'Connell Offense episodes, and I even wrote articles at Zone Coverage about it and stuff, a lot of it was, well, they would hope that some motion from a wide receiver, say jet motion, would influence the linebackers, make everybody's job a little bit easier. But that doesn't really solve the problem of just blocking math. Oh no, they put too many guys on the line of scrimmage and now we can't double team. We got a one-on-one everybody, and we don't have the dudes to one-on-one everybody because we don't have the best lineman in the history of the game. What do we do there? That becomes the next question. The answer to that exists in all these other words like support and Zorro and Wheezy and Edge and Sift, Force, all of that other stuff. So I'm going to just kind of go through like a glossary a little bit, try to get to as many of the next ones as possible. Before I do that, I would love to chat with you about another sponsor of today's episode, which is Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and the leg, giving you that truly sculpted, delectable, and man-musky look. Bird Dogs shorts fit a lot better than regular shorts, which can be made of like rigid cotton fabrics and not only be a little bit more uncomfortable, but they don't really fit through your sculpted legs that you've worked so hard. If you want people to really like what they see when they look at your groin, then you might want a bit of a slimmer fit and, of course, a little bit more comfortable as well. You don't want that restricting cotton. So Bird Dogs has their cloud knit fabric, and it looks just like khaki, so you get all the fashion advantages of khaki, but it stretches in such a way that you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement, and they have an anti-stink sweat-wicking fabric that can keep you cool and dry all day long because nobody wants a stanky thigh. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or promo code LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. Okay, so this part of the run game guide thing is going to just sort of be a glossary of terms. And hopefully you'll understand what each of these types of plays is for, what problem it solves. Now, it might come up a whole lot in one game and then not even be in your game plan for the next game. And that's a lot of and making those decisions is a lot of the work that coaches will do throughout a given week. So the first word I want to talk to you about is force. All force means is that there is a lead blocker. So if you hear 19 force is also a strong side word. But it means that there's a lead blocker going to the outside. Actually, I think it could be like force one. I think force one is like possible. I don't think there's a different word for that. Either way, it means that there is a lead blocker and he is going to the outside. So a lot of times he'll be picking up a safety, maybe a linebacker that's scraping over, maybe a cornerback that's particularly zealous. His blocking instruction will be most dangerous man, MDM. That means the way I'll describe it is if you are CJ Ham and the play is force and you're out there looking for who to block, imagine you get Thanos snapped. Who makes the tackle? Go block that guy, right? Who is the person who is most likely to make the tackle, the closest person to making the tackle, the fastest person to making the tackle. So a lot of times it's the closest guy, but sometimes you'll block the fast guy over the big guy, or maybe you'll block the big scary guy over the corner that you think the running back can bowl over. There's a bit of decision making there, but generally it's who's closest to the thing. Go block the most dangerous man. There are other instructions. So take, for example, Mike, which is the same thing, strong side zone with a fullback lead blocking, but instead of going to the outside and blocking most dangerous, they run up through the B gap and block the Mike backer. And then the running back is essentially following the lead blocking, but has the opportunity to maybe go a different way depending on how the tackle block goes or the center block or the double teams in the middle go and all that stuff. And what that can help with, if there's a Mike linebacker, that means that the guard and center on that play, that double doesn't necessarily need to go up to the linebacker, right? Maybe it goes up to a safety, so you've got a better matchup. You've got a lineman on a safety in the second level. That's a great matchup. We love that. Maybe they don't have to go up to the second level at all. They can just focus on that double team and really make sure if you have an Akeem Hicks on the other side and you're super scared of him, just, hey, we got two guys on this and let's just make sure that we get him and we'll have a fullback come in and take care of the linebacker for you so you can just focus on that. There's other problems that can solve. And then we already talked about weak, which is a weak side zone, but with the fullback coming and blocking the will, kind of the same thing, but on the weak side. There's edge, which is outside zone, strong side linebacker with the fullback taking down a walked up Sam linebacker. So if you think about, again, the blocking math, let's say you have you're running strong side, right? So you don't have that weird one-on-one on the tackle. You have with the tackle on the edge rusher, right? Let's say they've got Joey Bosa and the Vikings, Brian O'Neill's not ready yet. And you got Blake Brandel in there and they keep lining Joey Bosa on Blake Brandel. You don't want that one-on-one, right? So we'll put the tight end over there. We'll run outside strong lead to that side. Now it's a double team. It's a little easier for everybody, but they're also walking their linebacker down to line up outside of Joey Bosa. We got to take care of that threat. Edge is essentially telling a fullback to go handle that problem. Support is a word for when there's no lead blocker and we're running to the two wide receiver side, which means essentially the slot receiver becomes the lead blocker. And if you have a good support system, if you have a good support play and everybody's executing support really well, let's say you've got Justin Jefferson is the slot and he's doing a great job blocking. This will be, Deebo Samuel will be very good at this for the 49ers. The Rams will do this with Ben, Skowronek, I think, is that his name? And now he's the lead blocker. If you've got a slot receiver that can do that can go beat a linebacker, you might run support. That can be this really, really, really great tool. But that's what support means. Support means no lead blocker, but we're running to the two wide receiver side. And usually that'll be the strong side too. There's cat is a word that tells a wide receiver how to block. So if you hear force cat, okay, force tells me that there's a lead blocker going. Cat, it tells the wide receiver that he's going to have to go take a safety or he's going to have to take a linebacker. And with cat, you will lead to the outside a little bit. You'll stem to the outside so that players like corners and safeties who are playing coverage first have to react and hopefully widen out. And hopefully that will make it easier for you to get the blocking angles that you want. I should probably get to Zorro. I've talked about Zorro quite a bit. on the Locked On Vikings podcast, but basically Zorro is a motion with the tight end from one side to the other, and then a double team with him and a fullback on the edge rusher. So now, let's say you're really struggling with this Joey Bosa thing. Let's say Blake Brandel is just getting the crap kicked out of him. He's having the worst game of his life, right? And okay, so he just can't be against Joey Bosa anymore. Let's run Zorro. So there's two things that Zorro does to help you with this. One, the tight end going from one side to the other. Let's say it's 18 Zorro, so it's Zorro to the right. You'll start with TJ Hawkinson on the left, and the defense will say, okay, strong side's the left side. Great. Then he will go to the right, and now the defense has to say, oh, now the strong side is the right side. All of our blocking assignments and run fit assignments and all this stuff changes. What one linebacker does, what the other linebacker does changes, what the defensive line does changes. All of that stuff has to change when a tight end moves from one side to the other. Nothing's stopping them. They probably have a plan for that, but it's hard. They have to communicate and execute, and everybody's got to think about stuff. You're hoping somebody screws up just because you moved a tight end from one side to the other and then snap the ball right in the middle of when they're trying to think about that. Then you will have the tight end and the fullback double team that play side edge rusher. Say that's Joey Bosa. Now you've got, TJ Hawkinson on Joey Bosa. Well, I hate that, right? That sucks. We don't want that one-on-one. The Vikings ended up with that one-on-one a lot because they ran a lot of duo, which is kind of one of the drawbacks of duo as a run play. But TJ Hawkinson only has to hold up on Joey Bosa's outside shoulder. CJ Ham's coming in to get the inside shoulder. So if Joey Bosa wants to do a little shimmy or fake something to the inside or really attack the inside shoulder hard, TJ Hawkinson is kind of free to lose the rep that way. And so it makes it a lot easier. He doesn't really have to react to anything that Joey Bosa is doing. CJ Ham's going to come in and hit him on the inside shoulder if he does commit to the inside shoulder. So Hawkinson doesn't have to worry about it. Or maybe that's Josh Oliver or something like that. Maybe that's Justin Jefferson lining up inside. That can all be the case. Although Justin Jefferson as the Y is probably pretty rare. So that's what Zorro is. It's a 21 personnel run where the tight end and the fullback double team the edge rusher and the tight end motions from the other side. That's the important parts of Zorro you have to remember. Now, sometimes you'll actually have the tight end start out on the correct side of the run, motion over to the wrong side of the run, then motion back. And now the defense has to go, oh, it's the left side. Oh, now it's the right side. Oh, no, it's the left side again. And you're just hoping someone screws up there, right? There are so many different more words on this. There's Wheezy, which is doing the exact same motion of Zorro, but then you run Wanda, where everybody goes to the wrong way. So if you think about defenses, what if the defense is keying really hard on the fullback and saying, well, the fullback is lead blocking, right? So wherever he goes, the run is going. And all the other motion and misdirection, all this other stuff isn't working. Well, let's run Wheezy, where the fullback runs to the wrong side of the play. Hopefully everybody runs with them, and now you got a nice weak side run with the linebackers going the wrong way. That seems like a good run play. Wiz is split zone. I should probably talk about Sift as well. Sift is a split zone block. You might know it by that term. It's the same thing. That is where the tight end will start on one side of the play, and he'll actually block on the back side of the play. So he'll line up, let's say it's F Sift, or let's say it's Y Sift 19. So it's a run to the left. And let's say that the strong side of the formation is to the left. So the tight end is on the left. We're running that side, right? But we're actually going to have that tight end, instead of blocking the guy right in front of him, he's going to go back and get that backside edge rusher. Let's say the backside edge rusher is Joey Bosa. Say the Chargers figure out, man, they're really keying on Joey Bosa a lot. Let's put him on the weak side of the formation and see if he can't run this down. Now you can have the tight end go and just get in his way. It's pretty hard to run down a play from the backside, so you kind of only have to get a piece of him to stop him. TJ Hawkinson can handle that, right? So we'll have the tight end go back there. Now suddenly we just managed to have TJ Hawkinson win a block on Joey Bosa. We're kind of ahead on the numbers game now. So that can handle that problem. If you've got a backside pursuit edge rusher that's really giving you problems, that can be what Wiz is for, or what Sift blocking is for. Sift is the name for the block. Wiz is a weak side run that uses that block. I could go on forever. The only other word I want to tell you about is can, which just means that we have a starting play and then can, and then that's the backup play. So let's go back to that first crazy play call, right? I write flex F right. That is I formation. Right side is the strong side. Flex F right, just telling you where the fullback is. And I believe something about the wide receivers. Toss 18. Okay, so that's outside zone, toss to the right. Toss 18 support. Okay, so there's 2 wide receivers to the right. Toss 18 support. We're going to run a toss run to the 2 wide receiver side. Can toss 19 Wanda. So that means the quarterback can go up to the line of scrimmage and decide, all right, they're going to run outside zone toward these 2 wide receivers. Oh, hey, they've got that formation overloaded over there. The blocking math isn't right. We're going to run outside zone weak Wanda. Or, hey, I really like that look. Let's do it. I'm not going to can. And so 18 supported it is. That's all those play calls mean. And hopefully you understand when I say something like, we'll do another one, strong left, hug X left. Okay. Strong formation is called strong. Again, don't worry about that. Strong left, hug X left. That's all formation. Toss 19, Zorro, dart. Dart is very similar to cat, but without the outside stem, I believe. So strong left, hug X left. We don't care. Toss 19, great. Outside zone to the left. Zorro, okay, we're doing the motion thing. Dart, that tells the wide receiver what to do. It kind of starts to make sense a little bit once you realize, okay, every word's got its little job. And these play calls are so long because you got to tell 11 people their whole job. Hopefully that makes sense to you a little bit. Hopefully you can use this as a little bit of a reference. Don't use this as a reference, honestly. Use the Syed Schemes article. I'll link it in the show notes. Yell at me if I forget. And that's going to be the kind of way that I talk about this a little bit. So hopefully, keep this one bookmarked, right? And eventually you'll be able to say, oh, cool. Yeah, that was 18 Zorro Cat. And your friends will be bewildered by your astute football knowledge. Hopefully I can bring you to that place. Ask me questions. It's Twitter Tuesday tomorrow. So send them to me at Twitter, Lockdown Vikings, or at Luke Braun NFL. You can also fill out the Google form in the show notes. You can send me an email, lockdownvikingspodcast@gmail.com. Or leave a YouTube comment. I'll probably see it there as well. I'll see y'all tomorrow for that. And as always, Skull.